Welcome to Between Two Clinicians, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass into the mind of two therapists. I'm Talia.
I'm Adam Luke. We've spent years helping others navigate the complexities of their minds and relationships.
In this podcast, we're flipping the script, and we're sharing our own unfiltered insights. No topic is off limits, and no issue too taboo. We're ready to tackle the tough stuff with honesty and empathy. Let's dive in.
Well, hello.
We're live. It's
We
a new
meet
year.
yet again.
We every 2 weeks. Look at us. We actually really did find our groove. I just want to start by saying I'm very proud of us. It was a rough go there for a little bit when
Yes,
we
it
were
was.
both pregnant, new parents, but now the vibe is here, so we're good.
I remember when you almost broke up with me. You were like, I can understand if
Yeah.
you overcommitted.
Yeah.
And
I
it
do
took
remember
some soul
that.
searching and some bourbon, and I found myself back
Mhm.
in
You're like,
jump
no, I
seat.
need to commit to this. I think things really took a turn in a good way for my own prioritization of the schedule when I was like, oh, if I want to get something done, I literally have to pay people now. Like now I really understand
Yes.
the confines of childcare or at least ask like my parents or
Mhm.
somebody for help with watching her. And I was like, oh no, I gotta run a tight ship. So I probably had some bourbon at some point too. It's all a blur. Honestly, I feel like I was in Fallujah for a year. Now I'm out. So yeah, we're good.
Motherhood, the
Mhm.
first year.
Single motherhood, first year. Let's do this. But now it is a new year. It's,
Yeah.
well, today this is coming out on January 6th, which we will not mention what has happened on previous years in the same day because that's not this kind of podcast. But it's a new year. It's allegedly a new you, but you're on your same bullshit.
Yeah.
But this episode is why New Year's resolutions are like total BS, and there's nothing magical about waking up and the last number of the previous year is now a new number. That doesn't make you a new person. Like, not all of your goals are just going to suddenly come true because it's January 1st, 2025. I'm a different person. Why? Like, what did you do differently besides get drunk last night? Like, nothing. So,
I remember when I had a 24-hour fitness pass that, and I was religious. I used to go 3 times a day. There was a period in my life where like I loved working out.
oh, yeah.
Um, and I remember I got into this groove that the first month of January, I would just run. I wouldn't even go to the gym. And people were like, why don't you go? And I was like, because February 1st or 2nd, the gym's going to be back to what
Yep.
I know it is.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I'll just do all my cardio running because I don't want to deal with the
No.
first month of the year.
There's no machines, there's no free weights available. Totally. And also, it's flu season. So I already try to like tamp it down in December because I don't want to be sick. And then in January, like you said, everybody's like, new year, new me. What, you're going to lose 400 pounds in a month? Not going to happen. Like, I'm all for starting a new goal. Like, I wouldn't,
Absolutely.
you could technically start anything you want right now. You don't have to wait till
Mm,
tomorrow or a certain day. So I think part
correct.
of what we can talk about today is what is the mindset shift that people have to have for that to happen, where you don't want to wait for motivation. You can just choose to create it right here and now. You don't have to wait for the new
Mhm.
year. But if it feels better or what ethereal sense you're looking for to start in the new year, then what are your objectives, right? Like actually setting a smart goal, not just saying, oh, I want to do this at some point. It's too nebulous and your brain's going to forget about it. Or
Oh,
if you
yeah.
have ADHD, when you say that you've done something or when you say that
Mm,
you want to do something, what I've heard is that your brain equates it to that you've already done it. And then you don't have the motivation to accomplish it because somehow in your mind it thinks it's already happened. So that's kind of the that's the angle I'm taking with this. Plus, we'll see where this goes. But I do think New Year's resolutions are like hooey, to be honest.
I feel like it's a great way to set yourself up for failure. Like, because
No better
uh,
way to start the year than feeling like a failure yet again, right?
yet
Like,
again, right? Because
just
we
like
get into
last
these
year.
patterns,
Yeah.
and then it just becomes this like tradition of broken patterns
Mhm.
of I can't help but sort of like harken back to all my work I've done in addiction. And when I
Mhm.
hear people say, okay, the first year I'm going to do something, it's like I've heard that so many times from clients who've said I'm going to go on one last run. I'm just gonna one more bump, one more
Mhm.
high, one more whatever, and then I'll clean up.
Yeah.
Never happens. It's if anything, it's just that permission slip to I don't have to do it today. But
Mhm.
what's interesting is when you sort of start mortgaging tomorrow with the ramifications of your poor decisions, it requires more of you to pay that debt.
Mhm.
So at some point in time, like, you have to start paying the Pied Piper.
Yeah, it'll
Like
catch up to you.
like the thing I'm really working on now is my own physical health of like whether it was my master's degree or the pandemic or whatever excuse I want to come up with, there was a part of me that started to accept that I didn't have to take care of my physical health.
Mm,
And so, yeah, it's hard to reconcile when I look at pictures of me when I was the most fit of my life and then me now and
yeah.
going, how did I get here? Well, it was just incremental moments of drift, right?
Mhm.
When I told myself I'd do it tomorrow, I'll eat something healthy tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And so, what I hope you hear in this is that this isn't a bash session for me and Talia on how we're perfect and you all suck.
I'm just kidding. No, it's not.
It's it's really the conversation of, like, how much more are you going to co-sign your own bullshit?
Mhm.
Of, like
And delay
mhm,
choices that are healthiest for you, that again, you don't have to wait. I understand if it feels mentally cleaner or clearer
mm,
and under control. Sorry, I had to do a little shameless plug for Neutrogena now. But if it feels more organized
yeah,
to start at a new day, just wait till the next Monday, right? Or Sunday, whenever your week
mm,
starts mentally. You don't actually have to wait until an entire new year or an entire new month to get started on something. But there is, to me, it's fascinating the way that our brain works, that we
mhm,
organize around it's fresh, it's new, it's a new day, it's a new month, it's a new year. There
mhm,
is something to that if we're viewing time as linear. And
yeah,
something I tell my supervisees and my clients is there's the chronos sense of time, so the chronological sense, which is like
mhm,
we have 50-minute long sessions or hour long sessions, or it's a 24-hour clock or a 30-day month, what have you.
mm,
Then there's the Chiros, Chiros, which is the felt sense of time, where a 50-minute session could go by like that, or a
yeah,
50-minute session could be like, I'd rather be getting a cavity filled with no lidocaine. It's the felt sense of time that can be either way longer than it actually is chronologically or feel way
absolutely,
shorter than it is. So if you're looking at the reason why I think people enjoy waiting for a new deadline or whatever it
mm,
is, Monday, a new month, a new year, part of it might be that Kairos, that felt sense of time, is when I feel like I'll have the motivation. Okay, great. I can get on board with that. You want to, it's Thursday, the day we're recording. You want to wait till the next Monday, which is the 23rd, but
mm,
this will be out in the new year. To me, right, I can make excuses like, but that's an odd number day and it's so weird and it's right before Christmas. Like, you have to cut the excuse making out, because that is really what's going to sabotage your progress. That, just as much as not having what are the actual objectives you're going to be utilizing or interventions you're going to be utilizing to hit the
mhm,
goal. So let's say the goal is improving your physical health. To me, that's nebulous. I could
yeah,
interpret that one way. You would interpret it another way. What would be like a specific example of a goal for you, Adam, as you get used to
mm.
this new kind of mindset of, I want to improve my physical health? What is one of your goals?
I mean, just to speak to what you were just saying, which is for me, I've recognized, there was a show I used to listen to all the time on the radio called The Woody Show.
Mm,
And it was the way I started my mornings, but they had this one radio host that he was kind of known as the random excuse generator. Like, he could just come up with an excuse or a reason why he shouldn't
yeah.
do what he do at any given time. I've recognized in my own life now that I have that random excuse generator. I'm really good at being able to find socially acceptable ways of not having to do what I told myself I was going to do.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I mean, it's a little late in the day, or oh,
Yeah.
it's this, or
Yeah.
there's potential rain. There's all sorts of
Yeah.
things,
It'll
right?
snow eventually at some point in this year. I should forego this entirely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
should. And so I think that the bigger question has to be, why not now? Like, legitimately, why not now?
Mhm.
Because there's always going to be a level of inconvenience. So this is a thing. We all like to say, okay, on New Year's, all of a sudden inconvenience goes away. It's a new year. You're unbridled. You're
Yeah.
not tethered to all this other No, trust me, you're going to be paying December's debts in January.
Mhm.
So don't tell yourself that you're not tethered to this previous year somehow.
Mhm.
But this is where you start to see people fall apart is they go, "Oh, well, I'm extremely motivated right now." Well, motivation is a very dangerous thing because motivation is not consistent.
Mhm.
And if you don't
And
have
it's choice.
consistency, you're probably not going to find yourself completely through the whole process and having closure. So, like, something that I ask my clients, because it's something I ask myself now, is how many times am I going to outline a goal in my life and then allow myself not to get there?
Yeah.
Because that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's
Hmm.
why the very cynical side of ourselves, we stop making dreams or hopes or putting, a phrase I've been using lately is call your shot. A lot of times we're not calling shots. Why?
Yeah.
I don't want to have to deal with the ramification of me not doing it, because at
Yeah.
some point in time, I'm going to have to reconcile that it was actually me that didn't allow myself to get to that goal.
Yeah, most of us want the benefit or the reward of what we see other people have accomplished,
Mm,
but we don't know the amount of work that they've put in. Sometimes we
yeah,
do, but most of the time we don't know the amount of work or sacrifice that that person put in to get that. We just want the result. And there's
yeah.
something to be said for being able to appreciate a result that we put effort into.
Mm,
Motivation's a choice. I don't want to, when I was lifting heavily, before I had my daughter. I'm getting back into it now, but I am actually not going to get back into it to the same intensity because I was lifting like 6 days a week. It was
yeah.
insane. I was in insanely good shape and I was incredibly strong. Like my PRs for hip thrust was like 350, squat was like 275. Like I was jacked. But
Mm,
that took a lot of sacrifice. And there were many mornings where I was like, F this, I don't want to go. And the only reason why I did, because I didn't want my coach to yell at me. And I would sleep with a Celsius by my bed and I
yeah.
would roll over, crack it open in the morning and slam a few sips. And I would take my ADHD meds and I'm like, all right, we're doing this. Motivation is a choice. You will not feel motivated every single day to the same level or at all for that goal. But my ultimate goal, and I look back at pictures too, my ultimate goal was to accomplish looking like what I looked like and feeling like what I felt like and hitting my
Mhm.
macros. And I know I can do it. If I wanted to do it again, it's going to look different because I have different constraints now. Like in my experiment, if
Mm,
my life is an experiment, I have different constraints. There's different variables at play. I have a dog and a child to care for. I can't just get up and I'm only responsible for myself and go to the gym for as long as I want. And the only thing stopping me is when I need to leave for whatever job it was. And then slowly it was like, oh, well, I'm going to pick up
mm,
an extra class. And then I can't lift those 2 mornings of the week. And then slowly you fall out of it. And usually, again, for an entire year, if you're expecting this constant grind like David
mhm.
Goggins and all the other dudes, and I listen to them for motivation, don't get me wrong. I would also
Yeah.
love to be their therapist because some shit's fucked up in there for sure. Like, we got to talk about your childhood. Like, exactly how did your mom and dad hurt you? Because this is not by accident that somebody developed that much resiliency from such a young age and feels the drive of like, you must do no matter what, whenever. We don't even expect that of crops. Like in California, we have food in season all the time, so we're spoiled. But there's many other parts of the world where it's like
Yeah.
there's no strawberries right now because it's just not happening. We just ship it in from places, so we have a delusional sense that like everything's in season all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Our motivation and our production levels of ability to work towards a goal is not going to be to the same level in season all the time. You have to be realistic with yourself. And
Mhm.
usually, if you hit it hard from January, you could probably get to like July or August, to be honest, if you have a solid plan. By the end of the year, you're tired. It's closer to a new year, right? We like return for winter, even though we don't really even have a winter here. Like, we do follow some sort of evolutionary
Yeah.
primal like hibernation schedule. It's usually around this time that a lot of people are like, I don't want to go out. I've been out of the cave for the last 8 months. I just want to go back in my cave and like bundle up. And that's why living also in some places that actually have seasons allows you to see, oh, we are on a different schedule. We are
Mhm.
like the crops are on a different schedule. I'm on a different schedule. But here in California, or if you
Yeah.
use performance enhancing drugs, or if there's other constraints where it's like, oh, we just don't have that same felt sense of time,
Mhm.
you can go and do and produce. But again, expecting yourself to have 100% motivation every single day is an unrealistic expectation. And that's often what leads to self sabotage of these New Year's resolutions. Well, why
Mhm.
wasn't I as motivated in January to go do that? Oh, because you didn't
Mhm.
change this is what I want to talk about today too. You didn't change the other parts of your life that you would have needed to sustain the personal
Yep.
change, that societal communal change that need or changes, those ones that need to be made. That's what supports you in continuing the individual change. But if all my
Mm,
friends are still eating fast food, not going to the gym, not caring about whatever goal I have, it's not going to be realistic for me to sustain that. I'm going to have to fight fight against too much to keep that going.
Oh, absolutely. And you just brought up something I think I've said before here. It's something I love to use with my clients is the laws of sixes, right? If you find 5 millionaires, you'll probably become the six. If you find five miserable individuals, you'll probably become the sixth. And I know that people are going to be like, well, but Adam is millionaires. Okay, place anything there. Someone who loves being a parent, guess what? If you find five of them, you'll probably be the sixth.
True.
If you find a group of people who can't stand children, you will probably be the sixth, right? And this is why it's very important for us to also recognize the company we keep. It comes back to that inconvenience I was talking about. Like, if you want to change your life, you're probably also going to have to change the variables that are in your life. Like, that's why sometimes I sit back and I think about like the reverence I had for myself going into masters, like going into graduate school, because I wonder if, like, this is a question that does keep me up at night. Do I have that same level of grit, determination, and resiliency that allowed me to go to grad school now that I have my own business and I'm doing well? Because like that guy gave up everything. I gave up my friends group. And it wasn't like an F you. I don't want to, like, I wanted to go to the river. I wanted to be a Glamis. I wanted to be doing all these experiences that they wanted to be doing. But I couldn't do that and then somehow make me receiving my master's happen. It wasn't going to be, I just think about all the times that I was scrolling Instagram at 7 a.m. in the morning because I was getting ready to do art therapy as a pre-licensed clinician. I was seeing friends in Cabo and Cancun and all over the place. And this is that thing that you're going to have to ask yourself is, am I willing to sit in a level of inconvenience? But see, the difference is
perceived lack.
What's interesting now, though, is I think about all those times that I sacrificed. I didn't get my cookie then, but I sure as hell have my cookie now. Like, I have my own business. I have my home. I hit all these things on different trajectories than my friends, but nonetheless, I still made them happen in my life.
Yeah.
And so that comes back to the like, okay, so you're going to offset it and say, I'll do it in the first of the year. That's also telling yourself, I won't do it for myself now.
Yeah, why wait? I think is the real existential question to be answered, and using like an offshoot of the, what did you call it?
The law of sixes.
The law of sixes. Thank you. It's like the 5 whys. That's like the interrogative intervention. It's like, well, why are you waiting for the first? Oh, because it feels better. Why does it feel better? Oh, because it allows me a little extra time to be who I really am. Why does it feel good to be who? Like, this is just an off the cuff example. Usually you'll get to the reason of, oh, I'm used to delaying gratification, or I'm not used to delaying gratification. I'm used to getting what I want when I want it. I'm used to delaying actually what's good for me. And maybe I have the delusional belief, like, it'll just all work itself out eventually. Like, as far as I know, you have to go to the gym or eat certain foods for your body to look a certain way. And if you don't do those things, your body will still look a certain way, but usually probably not the way that you want it. Or your grades. You're going to have to study or go to tutoring to get better grades. You want to raise at work, you're probably just not going to show up and do the bare minimum. You maybe don't go above and beyond to the point of self-sacrifice that then they take advantage of you. But if you want something, you actually do have to work towards it and work for it. My other advice would be, right, what, wild? Don't come out at 110% because you're going to lose gas and steam much quicker than if you're like, you know what, I have this goal. Let me start at a solid 80%. That is much easier to maintain over time. It's not to say that you can't have that drive or that excitement be at 150%, but the actual output, the energy expenditure has to be more conservative if you want it to go longer and you want it to go the distance. So if you realistically are like, maybe your gym goal isn't, maybe it's not a gym goal, but it's the easiest one that's like kind of neutral to use. Maybe it's not about weight loss. It's about movement of your body because you know it makes your mental health better. And if your clothes fit better, that'd be a bonus, right? Let's just be realistic. Okay, so I'm probably not going to go to the gym 6 days a week for 3 hours a day. If I go right now 0 hours a day, and then I'm expecting to go 18 hours a week, that's too big of a jump. And even if I were able to do it for the first week, it's too much to the nervous system and the equilibrium that your body likes homeostasis. It's going to be like, screw this, I'm going to go 3 days next week. Then that turns to 2 and then 1. Realistically, the goal should be, drinking water is one that I had last so 2024, this whole year, and it was not going to be realistic for me to drink 2 gallons of water a day if I was used to drinking like 48 ounces, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, so then my goal was an extra water bottle or an extra half each day of the week, and then scaling up. Could I hold that at 2 weeks, then 3 weeks? So by the end of, again, I set a time limit. At the end of the year, I was drinking about 1.5 gallons of water a day, but I couldn't be drinking 1.5 gallons at the end of the first month. So when you're setting a goal, you need to be realistic about the timeline of it as well. And this goes for relationships. I want to be in one. I want to figure out if I meant to be in the right one. You have to give it a timeline. Ideally, you don't share this with your partner of like, by the way, for the next 2 months, I'm going to keep you under a microscope to make sure this is the relationship for me or not. That's not what I'm advocating for. What I'm saying is if internally you're kind of getting the vibe of like, I don't know if this is for me, give yourself an honest, I'm going to give it my all for another month or two. See what shakes out at the end of the month or two. Don't be nebulous and waste 2-3 years of your life on a relationship that you could have been more discerning about and set a specific timeline. Nobody likes to make painful decisions, but guess what? They have to be made. So if you put a timeline on it and a deadline on it and you take the emotion out of it, time comes, rip the Band-Aid off, make the decision. You can always make a different decision. There's rare things in life that are completely undoable. I can think of maybe 2 or 3 off the top of my head where you couldn't go back and make a different decision.
Hey there, listeners. Are you tired of settling for less than you deserve in your relationships? Do you ever feel like you're not being seen, heard, or valued the way that you want? Or maybe you've been wondering why you keep attracting the same kinds of people into your life, or why certain patterns seem to repeat themselves in your relationships. The answer might be deeper than you think, and you can find it in my new course. Rewire Your Relationships is a transformative course designed to help you stop settling for less than you deserve and start embodying your most confident, assertive, and authentic self in your relationships. You'll explore how your early experiences and parental influences have shaped your views on love, dating, and self-worth. This isn't just about tips and tricks for dating. It's about understanding the core beliefs that drive your relationships that you attract. You'll learn how to break free from those old patterns and start creating the kind of connections that truly reflect who you are. Imagine stepping into a relationship with clarity and confidence, knowing you're attracting people who value and respect you for who you really are, your deeply authentic self. The Rewire Your Relationship course gives you the tools to rewrite your relationship story, one where you're no longer settling, but thriving. Visit taliabombola.com/rewireyourrelationships or check the link in the show notes for more.
I love how you brought in the fact that like we do have to be students or diligent of our time. Like if we don't put a time to it, and I think that's the other thing is okay, in the first year I'll start going to the gym. But it's never like I'm going to do this for a year.
No.
Like you never actually give yourself that backside of the permission slip of saying like, how long are you going to do this thing?
How many days a week? For how long? What program are you going to follow? Like, what are the operational
that's
definitions?
A plan.
Yes.
Like the other thing's a dream.
That's a wish. That's a New Year's wish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's not a New Year's, or I guess it's a New Year's resolution in the sense that like you're resolute on that being what you want. But if you don't have a plan, it is a wish. So yeah, I mean, I wish for a lot of things. It's probably not going to happen. You know, even from child, I really wanted a treehouse growing up. That would have been dope. Or we have this mall by us, Fashion Island, that has these really beautiful, ornate. They're like basically ADUs. They were like the ADUs of the 90s before Airbnb was a thing. And kids were like, I want one. I still wish for that. I could theoretically buy one now, but my wishes have changed. But if I wanted to, I'd have to plan. I'd have to budget. I have like, it's not that a wish can't come true in that sense. If what you're wishing for is an actual reality, that if you put pen to paper or finger to iPhone and sketch something out, you could make it a reality, then your wish can become a reality. But it will continue to remain a wish if you don't put any action towards it, any objectives or any interventions, and keep the timeline nebulous.
Well, a wish without a plan is a coin flip. A wish with a plan is a goal. Like that's, if you want to have goals are easily attainable. And I know most people say, what do you mean easily? Like some of these are, here's the thing, like Elon Musk, we all sit back and we think about his life and we go, oh God, that was a lotto ticket. In a lot of ways, yes. But at the same time, the man is extremely driven. Like, he also, it wasn't like silver spoon from cradle to where he is. He went through failures. He experienced different, and so that's something we also like to dismiss is that people who have reached their goals never experienced inconvenience because we see them where they are today and we say they don't deserve it. And that's something to
Such a
also
myth.
bring into this thought process, is
Yeah.
asking yourself, do you feel like
Mm.
you are entitled to what you ask of yourself? Like, and that's why a lot of people will have very poor relationships with weight and with food, because we think that if we drink more water and if we cut out carbs, then I should lose weight, right? But then what does it look like when I'm also overeating now, or I'm eating in ways that's like, oh, well, but it's a
Yeah.
cheat, right? No, I should be allowed to. True.
Or you have a hormone imbalance. It doesn't matter what you follow. You and I both know this from personal journeys. Like, if your hormones are jacked up and they're not dialed in, good luck. You could be eating the cleanest ever, and your body's like, you know what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to say F you, and you're actually going to gain weight eating. You're like, what?
So that
What kind of
aside,
weird
though,
punishment
let's
is
say
this?
like,
you
like,
really
okay,
do
like, because you and I
need...
we have our own
Yes.
biases because
Okay,
they are
fair.
our
That
experiences.
aside.
Like, yeah, good luck trying to put on muscle when you have no
Yes.
testosterone.
Yeah.
Like, that thing happens.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you'll hear people say,
Right.
I'm entitled to not do what I
Yes.
need to do because I deserve a cheat. I deserve the cheat. I deserve
And get the
this
result I
entitlement
want.
feel also stands in the way of us having what
Deservingness.
we
Yeah.
want, right? Like, well, I deserve to
Yeah.
have a better relationship.
That's
a
true.
great, it's a
I
great
think, yeah.
statement. But are you in the relationship with the person that could actually give you the better relationship? Like, if you're dating a frat boy, like, you're gonna
Yeah.
get the experience you're gonna get. If you're dating a woman that doesn't want to settle down, then you're not being wronged here. You're putting yourself in the wrong situation.
You make sometimes people, I think,
Mhm.
like, make themselves the victim. And I'm glad you brought up the like deserving versus entitled, because I just did a quick Google search on it. And deserving is more about merit and is based on personal qualities or actions that you're actually taking. Entitlement is more of a belief that one is inherently deserving of special treatment and privileges, and often comes from a place of insecurity, ego, or a lack of healthy self-esteem. So I think if you set a goal, you work towards a treatment plan or goals, the SMART goals, like objectives and interventions, then even if it isn't happening, by that definition, you do deserve to lose weight or deserve to gain muscle or deserve to feel good about whatever that might be, because by that definition, you're putting in the work. But if it's like, I just want this or I'm wishing for it and I feel the sense of entitlement, no, you don't deserve it. And don't be shocked when it doesn't happen, because you're not changing. You're not taking actions to make that change actually happen in your life. So I think everyone does deserve a healthy relationship, or at least a chance at healthy love. I don't feel entitled to it, even though I'm a therapist, even though I've studied it, even though I'm probably like the least entitled person to it, because we know too much on the other side of what goes into a relationship is so nuanced. And if I feel I'm deserving of it, then maybe my actions will be not settling for a situationship, not settling for someone who treats me poorly, not settling for somebody who's actively telling me I'm never going to want something serious if I want something serious. I'm in that sense in control of what I deserve or what happens to me, because I'm choosing what I do or do not participate in. So I'm going to choose to participate in going to the gym, because that will get me closer to my goal of moving my body every day and feeling good about it. And that's probably a more realistic goal for people to work towards, rather than an arbitrary goal of, I want to weigh some number that I've never weighed, or maybe the last time I weighed it was in high school. Like, again, you have to be realistic. The SMART goals are realistic. You have to be realistic with what the goal is and understand your body, your mind, where you're at in your life. You may have certain limitations. I'd love to be a millionaire by whatever age. I actually already kind of am, but like, I would be that by a certain age, because I started investing when I was in my young 20s. But if I'm sitting here starting this podcast with you at 60, and I'm expecting to be a millionaire by 65 and I've invested nothing, I would probably have to invest in like Nvidia or some other crazy risky stocks and hope it works out in 5 years. But I don't even think that would be enough time. Like, again, be realistic about how much time you're giving yourself and what your goal is.
Like, the safest bet was actually yesterday, not today.
No, or January 1st or January 30th or whatever future. Like, time is something you can never get back or make more of. So that is what you need to capitalize on. You have more time now. Why would you wait to get healthier? Why wait? That's the question I ask my clients. Well, I'll just do. Why? What does 11 days difference make? It's just enabling yourself to get away with being the old version of you that you don't want to be anymore. Stop being that
Or how many
person.
times do we
That
sit
could change right when you
down
walk out of
with
my
clients
office.
and the goals they have for themselves are not actually the goals they want for themselves? So like that's another like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym or whatever. January 1st, I'm gonna
True.
start this. Is this actually your goal? Is this something that you want? Because if you don't want it, it's gonna be even harder to get out of bed in the morning
Hmm.
and try to do it. Well, I'm told that that's what I want, and I think there has
Hmm.
been an awakening in the last
Hmm.
few years of people coming back around to this idea of I should probably ask why am I doing the things that I'm doing instead of doing the things that I'm told in a state of like ignorance
Yes.
or naivete. Um,
Yeah.
but this is also applicable to this conversation. It's like if your goal is not central in what you want, you will not reach it, right?
And that doesn't
Exactly.
mean you have to give it up, but maybe changing it a
Mm,
bit. Like the goal is the goal. That's the advice I give coaching and therapy clients. Like keep the goal, but if you need to modify the goal, that's okay. I had
mhm.
way more motivation to be at the gym. I was working out like 3 hours a
Oh,
day,
yes.
lifting jujitsu, this when I was going to be a cop, because it was literally life or death. And anytime I was like, I want to give up, I'm like, no, I could get stabbed or
Yes, it
murdered
is.
on the job. You will not give up. And that's very motivating to continue. I didn't have that same motivation when I decided not
Mm,
to pursue law enforcement. I still went to the gym, but I wasn't anywhere near that level of like primal drive motivated. So then my goal became okay, I'll go 3 days a week for an hour each. And that was way more realistic because when I was continuing to
mm,
keep my or expect rather my motivation level or drive
yeah.
level to be at the same as when the goal was this is life or death, then I would feel frustrated or disappointed.
Mm,
Why don't I have energy? Why don't I have this? I already told my brain the cheat code, like, we're not going to die if we don't do this. We're going to die if we don't
mm,
do this is a much different motivation than we're not going to die if we don't do this. It's not the end of the world. You can be a little bit more lax. Doesn't mean you should slack off entirely, but some people put emphasis on I'm going to die if I don't do
mm.
this when that's not really the case, and they don't actually put the emphasis on I'm going to die if I
Oh,
don't do this when it
absolutely.
really is the case. Like when it comes to physical health or financial health or something like that, if you don't have
Mm,
proper motivation, drive, and a goal alignment, you will feel lost. And that I think is also going to lead to self sabotage. Well, what's the point? It's not worth it. Be realistic about when you want to see results. Not everything is immediate in this instant gratification
yeah,
culture.
and that
It is rare that lasting results come
self
immediately.
discovery is filled with dopamine releases. Like it's not necessarily. Yes, we have breakthrough moments and we have moments where absolutely we're going to rest in the reward of what we're going to experience. But we have to be careful if we're looking for always those dopamine dumps because yeah, it's weird. Like the thing that will light me up with working out is I love to get the pump, right? But the pump does not show up when I'm waking up early to put on my gym clothes and get into the car, right? And so the reward doesn't hit till after,
No,
right? So a lot
it's
of us
not. No.
also sit in this spot of, well, why can't I get my reward now? Because you're not done. You haven't hit the goal that you aligned for yourself. If you aren't willing to keep pushing through, and I call them like the deserts of our life. Like, yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel like you have the resources, you don't have a concert of support, but you're on this journey alone. Why? Because I know that there's a destination I'm trying to get to.
Right.
You will rest when you get to the destination. You don't rest in the middle of the desert.
No, you do not. But a lot of people choose to. Or they're like, it's a mirage. Yeah.
Like, oh, I can drown my sorrows over there. Oh, I can disassociate over there. Like, I hope that if you do make some goals for yourself, and this isn't an anti-goal podcast, yeah, you suck. Life's miserable.
You have to plan
Yeah,
out your resolutions.
allow yourself to be successful.
Hmm.
That's my thing. Allow yourself to be successful.
Yeah.
I have to remind that to myself all the time that I am not above failure.
Hmm.
Like I have to allow myself to fail at times.
Yeah.
And this has been a year where it has been like the failures haven't cost me a life, haven't cost me a house, haven't cost me
Right.
my cards.
Right.
Those aren't the failures, but it is putting yourself out there, not being picked.
Hmm.
It's I wanted to do more speaking gigs. Guess what? I've sent out more of those CVs trying to get speaking engagements, and it's brutal. Just know they don't have to tell you why. They don't probably even want to fill you in on why. you just, oh, we're going a different direction. But if I don't allow myself to step into those failures, I know that I'm not going to get the opportunity.
Yeah.
It's unlikely that someone is going to come and knock on my door and give me the opportunity I want. So I'm going to have to allow myself to be present enough to be turned down for the experiences I want.
Yeah, like I think putting oneself out there, making the attempts, being open and receptive, whether it's to receive or
Mm-hmm.
to not receive, you're still showing up and showing the universe, like, this is what I want. This is what I'm willing to put in the work for. And it may not be immediate. And the same day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. There's often times where you will be
Mm,
working towards a goal for a long time, way longer than you ever chronologically or
yep.
Kairos felt sense of time planned for. And when the day comes that the goal is accomplished or accomplished
Mm-hmm.
in a different way, then you will understand why that path had to be the way that it was, why you
Mm,
failed, quote unquote, in certain ways when you didn't expect to fail. Instead, you expected to succeed. But maybe those failures are actually a blessing in disguise.
mm,
There were many things that were taken away from me or given to me in the last 24 months. We'll use baby age numbers math. In the last
yeah.
24 months, 2 years of my life that I never would have saw coming, and truly probably would have laughed in your face if years ago you told me that would be the life path. I'd be like, what?
Mm,
Me? Have you met me? As if I were immune to being human and to having life happen upon
yep.
me or participate in. And I can say confidently now, after like the 2 years, it's all worked out for the best. It was painful as
Mm,
fuck going through some of it. Like, never would go through it again, but I'm so
no.
grateful that I went through it to get to where I'm at today, because I have a life I never would have dreamed of. In fact, did not
Mm,
dream of, but it is the life of my dreams. And I think that's where a lot of clients and people listening to this, be be open to what the
mm-hmm.
universe has in store for you, and don't be so stuck to your goals or so rigid. Like, too much of a plan makes you stupid, because you're going to
Yeah.
shut off other opportunities. Like, if you're so dead set on speaking gigs, and the way that your neural like pathway is
Mm-hmm.
developed is like, I need to email all these people and I need to look at these podcasts, like you have a 3-step system, let's say. But then there's other people emailing you like, hey Adam, we saw you on this your podcast, wanted to invite you, and you're looking, you're like, well, they didn't use the word that I was trained to look for, so you delete the message. You're blocking yourself from those speaking gigs. Or if you're not going and networking, right, you're like spending
Mm-hmm.
so much time sitting on your computer emailing, you're not going to networking events where people could meet you and invite you in person. You're blocking yourself because you're too stuck to too rigid of a plan. If the goal
Absolutely.
is, I'd like to speak more, or I want my voice to be heard publicly, universe, show me what that
Well, you'll
looks
strangle the
like.
success, right?
Exactly.
Like it's very much something that I'm going to hold firmly, but I'm not going to grasp so tightly that I strangle it to death,
Yeah,
right?
you
I'm
need to
going to
hold
kill
on
the
loosely.
opportunity before it ever happens.
Yeah, I'm open to what that looks like. Show me what that looks like. It could be somebody else being like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? That's technically you speaking publicly. It's just not on the
Yeah.
stage. So, or it's a virtual stage. Like, it's being open to what does this look like, and not being so stuck on, but this was my
Hmm.
goal. Give it up. Like, some goals you have to
Yeah.
give up and update and create a new goal.
I mean, something that you're talking about that just like I feel so like top of mind for
Mm-hmm.
myself is I was talking to someone who they're in the process of trying to find a new job,
Mm.
right? Like they were offered a severance, they're no longer working for who they were working for. And so I was asking them about the process of what has it been like trying to find a new job. And they're like, "Oh, well, I'm just not applying." And I said, "Well, I'm
It's a
sorry. Hey,
unique way of,
yeah, it's like
it's like an
this is a new
anti-application.
this is a new strategy, right? Like I'm not going to
Don't
look for
apply.
the job will find me. Like I like this."
I'm into that.
And I said, "Can you walk me through that?" And they're like, "Oh, well, I sat down with all of these headhunters and they told me that you don't just go apply for jobs." I was like, "Okay, well, let me." He
What do
said,
you do?
"Oh, yeah, if you just go apply for jobs, you'll be applying for jobs all day, but most of them aren't going to call you back."
Okay.
And it's like, "Okay, this isn't." I agree
Following
with
so
everything that
far.
you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you probably. And they're like, "So you only apply to places that you know people because they are the ones that get you the job."
Okay.
And it still works, but let's take in all the like the subconscious things that we're talking
Yeah.
about. One is I don't have any power.
True.
2 is that whatever job I get is going to be out of pure luck of knowing someone who's going to get me the job. I mean, so we're already starting this process of being at a deficit, right? And
Yeah.
why does this apply to what we're trying to talk about now? Is like in a lot of ways, we keep ourselves our own best kept secrets. Like, because here's the thing, when you talk about what are your goals for January, sometimes we're afraid to tell people, right? Because if I actually say it, then people are going to inquire. People are going to say, how much weight have you lost? I'm going to have to say none, or I gained some. Well, when was the last time you went to the gym? I didn't make it this week. And so we get really good at hedging our own bets, but what we do is we also hedge our own progress. We don't end up actually getting to where we want to go because we're afraid of saying it out loud. What I want to encourage you in is whatever goal you set for yourself today, tomorrow, the next day, or the first of the year, you need to lean into your allies. Like if you also find yourself in a process where you can't share your goals with the friends around you, I don't know if you got friends.
True. And if they would try to sabotage you or take your goal,
not even sabotage, sometimes they're going to just straight out tell you no. Why?
Yeah.
Law of sixes. If they're a miserable person,
yeah, if you accomplish your goal, then we're not going to be exactly.
Success.
Yeah, I don't want you to be successful because it threatens our relationship. Yeah.
You know, I was talking to another guy who coaches just men, and he was talking about the recruiting method. And I said, what do you mean the recruiting method? And he goes, oh, in these laws of sixes, you always have an unwritten rule, which is you always bring in a person that has a diminished capacity below your own. If we're all in different states of deficits, if we're all insecure, right, we're not going to bring in someone who's more competent than us. We're always looking for a pecking order in which we are still just a little bit better than
Superior.
these other people, so that I also can keep myself stuck in the justification of I'm not that bad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's sometimes the downside of group therapy, too. Well, shadow, but light side at the same time. It's like, oh, I'm not that messed. These people are messed up. I'm just like a little messed up. Yeah.
I mean, I only hit a pedestrian. These people have killed.
This is mass. Yeah, no, I think, but to your point, that's an interesting point to add on, because when you do start talking about your goals, it would vary greatly whether you have a constructive or a destructive support system. If I'm trying to tell you, if I'm telling you my goal and the people are checking in and that's accountability and that's motivating, then it is a positive thing to tell people my goals. But if I have other people who then derail and make it about themselves, or they don't have any goals for health or wellness, so it would be a threat if my goal for health or wellness may have us be spending less time together, or we're not going to be able to hang out in the same ways, even if we are spending the same amount of time together. I don't want to go out to fast food anymore. I don't want to just sit on the couch and watch a movie. Let's go for a walk. Oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to do it. Then we're going to start spending less. Then we are going to start spending less time together. So I think for you, as you're listening to this, you listener, be clear on what your goals are. Be clear on the interventions. And if you don't know how to set a goal, look up SMART goals. It'll be very step-by-step of how to do that. And be realistic with the timeline that you give yourself for the goal. Always keep the goal. And you know what? You won't know what you don't know. If you have to modify the goal along the way, that's fine. Don't forego it entirely. It's better to update your goal to be more realistic than cancel it and not pursue it at all.
Correct.
That's my closing
remarks.
Mic
drop right there.
Yeah. So any final thoughts?
My final thought is just don't tether yourself. Don't limit your own progress based off of the fear of the unknown. Like the best part, like when I hear people tell me all the time, Adam, I don't know. I don't know is actually a wonderful spot to be in. What would we like to learn? Like that's where I don't know is not a limiting factor.
No, it's a great place to start.
Is not a limiting factor.
Yeah.
It's just a starting place if you will allow it to be. But a lot of people have allowed it to be barriers to their progress.
Yeah, don't let not knowing keep you from finding out. There's your fortune cookie.
Yeah.
And we'll see you further in the new year. And if you have a goal that you're like, screw you guys, I actually accomplished it. I love being wrong. Just kidding.
I want you to drop it in. Drop it in.
Comment.
Send us a DM.
I can't wait to be wrong. I won't be, but I can't wait to be. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Between Two Clinicians. We would so appreciate if this episode resonated with you, for you to share it with somebody And also find your favorite podcast platform and like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. We would love to attract more listeners just like you and have this message be spread to whoever needs it. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.